The first cinders of a lord are in your possession, and beyond the abyss, you discover a legendary old city, completely covered in snow and an endless night, only illuminated by the crescent moon in the sky, Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Vord originates from this place, and so does his ring, given to him by Pontiff Sulyvahn. In order to reach the central Irithyll bonfire, you have to cross a large bridge, but before reaching the far side you will be attacked by one of Sulyvann's beasts, which becomes visible behind you. This situation where you have to fight a beast on a bridge is reminiscent of the cleric beast in Bloodborne, that you are fighting on the large bridge in central Yharnam. But on the other hand, the design elements such as the open chest and the crocodile-like head seem to be influenced by the gaping dragon from Dark Souls 1. Killing Sulyvann's beast grants you not only a safe traverse over the bridge, but also the Pontiff's right eye ring, the counterpart of the left eye ring from Vord. This implies that, just like Vord, the beast was one of Sulyvann's knights as well, but transformed even further than the Outrider Knight. The bridge ends with a foggy barrier, and without a certain item in your possession, you can't cross this line and reach Irithyll. You can find the key to this city at the end of a path emanating from the Crucifixion Woods. Now it is the time to follow Anri and Horus to the Cathedral of the Deep, and before doing so, face the Crystal Sage. The Crystal Sage is a great sorcerer, and together with its twin, a successor to the most powerful sorcerer from Dark Souls 1. The Sage's big head and the use of crystal sorceries are direct connections to Big Head Logan, a sorcerer who discovered the power of crystal magic in the archives of Seath the Scaleless Dragon. Now the Crystal Sage uses this crystal magic to guard the cathedral from intruders. Under the big head it hides a beak mask, again a reference to Bloodborne and the Hunters of Hunters. In Yharnam you meet Eileen the Crow, one of those Hunters of Hunters, and she's wearing such a mask. The real life influence of this mask is the costume of the Plague Doctors from the 17th century. The beak was filled with different aromatic substances to prevent the wearer of bad smells, which were believed to be the source of the plague. The beak mask prevented the doctors from the curse of the plague, Eileen the Crow from the scourge of beasts, and the Crystal Sage from another foulness. The whole backstory of the Sage and his twin will be discussed later, but for now we will follow the path behind the ruins that leads to the Cathedral of the Deep. This path is the one on which the Evangelists sent the inhabitants of the undead settlement. The hollow manservants in this area carry cages with hollows inside, and the large cemetery in front of the cleansing chapel with the infinite undead hollows reviving again and again shows the fate of those sent on the road of sacrifices. Anri and Horus explored the cathedral as well in search of Aldrich, known as the Saint of the Deep, but also the Devourer of Gods.
But what do you really know about these Lords of Cinder, these supposed legends? Let's take Aldrich for one, a right and proper cleric, only he developed a habit of devouring men. He ate so many that he bloated like a drowned pig, then softened into sludge. So they stuck him in the Cathedral of the Deep, and they made him a Lord of Cinder, not for virtue, but for might.
The enlightened inhabitants were sent out to be devoured by Aldrich, who is said to rest deep inside the cathedral, and the backmost room is guarded by many knights and deacons of the deep. Anri and Horus can be summoned to assist you in this boss fight. Traversing the fog gate reveals the enormous coffin of Aldrich, but it is empty and guarded by his loyal deacons, led by Archdeacon Royce. This whole location and the events are again influenced by a biblical story, and in this case it is the story of Jesus. First of all, there are the evangelists, who are like Christian missionaries, who try to convert or enlighten the townsfolk of Aldrich and his faith. They are sent through the abandoned church, across the road of sacrifices and the crucifixion woods. Here we meet hollows carrying logs. In the Bible, in the books of Matthew, Mark and Luke, it is a man called Simon who carried the cross of Jesus, and in the book of John it was Jesus himself. The path he carried his own cross on his back in Jerusalem is called the Via Dolorosa, which is Latin for a way of suffering or the painful way, and it seems to be the equivalent of the road of sacrifices. This Via Dolorosa ended in a hill called Golgotha or Calvary, and in the Bible those terms are translated into place of the skull. The Greek translation uses the term cranion, which only describes the upper part of the skull, without the face bones. It was this hill on which Jesus and two thieves on his left and right side were crucified. In the crucifixion woods are not only numerous wooden crosses supplemented with circles, but also so-called lycanthropes. Those enemies are attached to those crosses, and according to their names, they seem to be humans transforming into beasts. A lycanthrope or werewolf is a human transforming into a wolf when exposed to moonlight, and the lycanthropes in Dark Souls 3 are bound to their moon, and therefore are bound to their curse. The crucifixion of beasts is also an element in Bloodborne, where the citizens of Yharnam crucify beasts throughout the city streets to get rid of them and their scourge, not knowing that they and everyone else, including you, became a victim of this scourge of beasts long ago. After his death, Jesus was buried in a tomb near the hill of Golgotha. The exact locations cannot be proven, but in the first half of the 4th century, Constantine the Great built a church on top of the tomb of Jesus and the Golgotha hill, the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. The Cathedral of the Deep near the crucifixion woods has the same purpose, as it contains the grave of Aldrich, and this circular room is inspired by the so-called rotunda in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre and the edicula in its center, marking the sepulchre of Jesus. A big difference between Jesus and Aldrich is that Jesus sacrificed himself for humankind, while the people shall sacrifice themselves for Aldrich. But the backgrounds of those sacrifices are very similar, and the cathedral is strewn with the nails of the countless crucifixions. 2 days after his crucifixion, Jesus resurrected from his grave and left Jerusalem, just like Aldrich, along with the other Lords of Cinder, resurrected from his grave and left the Cathedral of the Deep. In Dark Souls 1, you start in the Northern Undead Asylum, a prison for the cursed undead. You flee from this place and start your pilgrimage with the help of a giant crow that flies you to the Firelink Shrine in Lordran. Later, you can return to the asylum, and in your prison cell, where you started off, you can find a peculiar doll. This doll is the key to enter the painted world of Ariamis. Its description states an abomination who had no place in this world, and this abomination is likely to be crossbreed Priscilla, who is described as a bastard child, and antithesis to all life. After killing Archdeacon Royce and the Deacons of the Deep, you receive 2 items. The Soul of the Deacons of the Deep, which combines the souls of all deacons, and the Small Doll, highly reminiscent of the Peculiar Doll. The Small Doll even serves the same purpose, as it is the key into a frozen world. Now you can cross the bridge and finally enter Irithyll of the Boreal Valley. Again, a doll leads into a cold and dark place, and just like the painted world of Ariamis is a fictional world inside a painting, it seems that Irithyll and everything that can be found here is fictional as well. A fictional world like the painted world of Ariamis can contain things that can't exist in the outer world. Crossbreed Priscilla is half dragon and half another being, maybe human, maybe god. Either way, she is part of the world of dragons and part of the world of life at the same time. She combines the Age of Ancients and the Age of Fire, and as this combination is illogical, she is described as the antithesis to all life, and therefore must exist inside a fiction. Shanalot from Dark Souls 2 shares the same fate. She is half dragon and half human as well, and therefore lives in the fictional kingdom of Drangleic. Before talking about the illogical entities in Irithyll, let's take a look at the borders of this place. The locations in front of Irithyll show us the possible extremes of fire and darkness, and Dark Souls 2 taught us the true meaning of this light and dark. King Vendrick tells us of the interaction between them.
Shadow is not cast, but born of fire. And the brighter the flame, the deeper the shadow. Inherit fire and harness the dark. Such is the calling of a true leader.
There is no shadow without fire, and no fire without shadow. The ancient dragon translates this into the basic concept of existence. In Dark Souls, fire equals life and shadow equals want, and as they must be connected, there is no living thing without want. High Lord Volnir shows us what a human can become. His want made him bringing all lords to their knees, grounding their crowns to dust and becoming the one High Lord. His want was so strong and big that his body equals its size. But even a human has its limits, and so he succumbed to the darkness. In the end, want only leads to more want, and I discussed the psychoanalytic reasons for this insatiable lack in a previous episode. For a human, there's nothing to be found beyond this darkness. According to Jacques Lacan, you can't get happy by achieving your goals, as your truest and deepest want desires something you lost long ago. As King Vendrick told us, shadow is not cast, but born of fire, and so want is a property of living beings. Life is the basis for want, and below the catacombs of Karthus, a place that represents want, you can find a place representing life itself, the Smoldering Lake. Before Gwyn linked the first flame to prevent its fading, the Witch of Izalith tried to duplicate this flame with her Lord Soul, but she failed and created the Bed of Chaos. The Lord Soul of this Bed of Chaos describes it as a bed of life, which would become the source of all demons. And the Chaos Storm Pyromancy from Dark Souls 1 states, the Witch of Izalith, in an ambitious attempt to copy the first flame, created instead the Flame of Chaos, a twisted bed of life. It seems that fire and chaos equal life, and the demons born of this chaos are beings of pure life. The Bed of Chaos and chaos in general is represented by wood and fire, two symbols for life combined, and while one of them is growing, the other is destroying itself, a situation you can observe everywhere in Lost Izalith. The Smoldering Lake is literally the basis for the catacombs above, with the smoldering trees being the props of this darkness. It is home to many demons, and in the hindmost cave you face the old Demon King. His soul states, the shriveled old Demon King is now like a clump of burnt ash, but he is the last living witness of the chaos of Izalith. Before entering Irithyll, you are conquering fire and darkness in their highest possible states. A human can't reach beyond fire, as he wouldn't be human anymore, and he also can't reach beyond darkness, as he would be devoured by the abyss. You are facing the outer borders of life and want for a human being, but what if? What if it would be possible to go beyond? In Dark Souls 2 you meet such a being. a former human who searched for the secrets of immortality, but he failed and lost his form and his self. Aldir, scholar of the first sin. Aldir is the brother of King Vendrick and known for his gruesome experiments. He made the same mistake as the Witch of Izalith and tried to recreate life, but in the end made himself a being of chaos. He learned that there's nothing for a human outside of the outer borders of life and want, and therefore any representation of such a human can only exist inside a fictional world.
Young Hollow, conqueror of fear. What drives you so to overcome the supposed curse? There is no path. Beyond the scope of life, beyond the reach of dawn, one could possibly await us. And yet we seek it insatiably. Such is our fate.
Anri visited Irithyll as well after finding the small doll in the cathedral, and she described this place as an ancient, fabled city, and the small doll's description characterizes it as a legendary old city. It further states, "Listen carefully and you can hear it say, wherever you go, the moon still sets in Irithyll. Wherever you may be, Irithyll is your home." The moon is the most important aspect of this city. It is the source of light and shines all over the Boreal Valley. But it is way more than that. The moon is a symbol, and the true meaning of this symbol can again be found in the previous games of the series. The moon as a symbol has its roots in Dark Souls 1. The youngest son of Gwyn was born male, but with an affinity of the moon. The power of the moon was strong in Gwyndolin, and thus he was raised as a daughter, with the waxing moon as a symbol. The game establishes a connection between the moon and femininity, but this is just a minor detail in Dark Souls 1. Just like the moon shines all over Irithyll, it shines over another city in another game as well, Yharnam. Yharnam is not only the name of this large city, but also the name of a queen, and Bloodborne tells the story of her pregnancy and childbirth. After a certain point, the full moon is omnipresent in Bloodborne, as it is a common theme until the end of the game. Even in our real world, the moon has always been a symbol for femininity. The monthly rhythm of the moon is reminiscent of menstruation, and the moon is seen as the counterpart of the sun. That is why the moon is in most languages a female noun. In Bloodborne, the moon represents Yharnam as a woman, but also as a mother. And Jacques Lacan described our mother, respectively the lack of our mother, as the cause of our insatiable want. In Dark Souls 3, beyond the scope of light and beyond the reach of dark, you finally achieve what you truly want. You reach the fabled city that is enlightened by the moon and therefore by your mother. In this case, it is neither a waxing moon nor a full moon, but a waning moon, and according to the small doll, it is setting. The impossible city of Irithyll represents the final and complete satiation of your want. The name of this city refers not only to its fabled nature, but also to the moon as a desired object. It originates from a fictional language, invented by J.R.R. Tolkien, and spoken by the elves in The Lord of the Rings, Sindarin. The first part, Ir, means sexual desire, the highest and even most important desire for a living being, and the second part, Ithil, simply means moon. Interestingly, in the same fictional language, the word for the sun is Anor, but that will be of interest later. On your first steps in the streets of Irithyll, you will see a darkish spirit. It is slowly walking towards the exit of the city, as if it wants to leave. Several steps later you encounter the first Pontiff Knights ranging the whole city. They are described as herald spirits of Irithyll, and their armors are light and brittle. They are able to pull a homing dark orb out of their mouth, the same dark orbs you saw in the catacombs of Karthus, representing humanity itself, and the knights are able to separate themselves from their humanity. The knights are led by burning stake witches, who are able to control fire with the immolation tinder, surrounded by Erythelian slaves. You can see some more of those darkish spirits, one of them with female proportions. Behind the Church of Yoshka and below the Great Bridge, you can choose one of two paths. One leads into a distant manor, and further below Erythel into the dungeon. But for now we will follow the other path, leading into a building guarded by several silver knights. Those knights once were the knights of Lord Gwyn and guarded the city of the old gods, Anor Londo. In this room are several paintings hanging on the wall, and some of them can be recognized easily. There's a painting of Nashanra, the queen of Drangleic and wife of King Vendrick. The same painting with a different frame and size can be found inside the Drangleic castle, and standing too close to it will curse you. Another painting shows a throne, and we know this location from Dark Souls 2 as well, as it depicts the throne on top of the broom tower, even if the construction in the background is destroyed on the painting. One painting is standing out, as it is in the center of the room, and it shows the daughter of Lord Gwyn, Princess of Sunlight, and Goddess of Bounty and Fertility, Gwynethere. She resided in Anor Londo in the Great Cathedral and awaited you to receive the Lord Vessel, but in the end turned out to be an illusion, created by her brother Gwyndolin. Further exploring Erythel leads you to the Great Cathedral of this city, and traversing the Fog Gate finally confronts you with its self-proclaimed leader and owner of the Black Eyes, Pontiff Sulyvahn. His name, written in its classic notation, derives from Old Irish and means Little Dark Eye. His name is referring to the black eye rings he bestowed upon his knights. The Pontiff is just another designation for the Pope, and therefore for the highest member of the Catholic Church and the representative of Jesus on earth. The Latin word pontifex means bridge builder, as the Pontiff is the connection between God and the earth. And in this scenario, Sulyvahn is the Pope and Aldrich is Jesus. The story of Sulyvahn has its roots in the painted world of Ariandel. Two frost-based sorceries that can be found here state: Sulyvahn was born and raised inside the painting, yet had little use for his frigid homeland, since he had not yet experienced loss. Furthermore, they tell us that Sulyvahn left his home as a young sorcerer. Based on this information, we can conclude that the painted worlds are made for those forlorn beings who had experienced loss and are now searching for a new home. But Sulyvahn was born and raised here, and did not come on purpose, and so there's no reason for him to stay. He is wielding two swords, and they share important information. The sword in his left hand makes clear what his ambition is that once took root within him. The Great Sword of Judgment states, a ceremonial sword held in Pontiff Sulyvahn's left hand, representing the judgment of the moon, but with magic far closer to sorcery than any existing lunar power. Its dark blue hues, deeper than the darkest moon, reflect Sorcerer Sulyvahn's true nature. The moon is not only connected to femininity. Since Dark Souls 1, the Dark Moon is a symbol for something else, and the Dark Moon Blade miracle describes it very well. The power of the rays of the Dark Moon are manifested in vengeance, and the deeper the animus, the more devastating the attack. The same miracle exists in Dark Souls 3, and it states, miracles of the Dark Moon are tales of revenge, but Captain Yoshka recites only for the sake of remembering her brother, without knowledge of its meaning. Perhaps this is better, as revenge is better left to the blades. The Dark Moon is a symbol for revenge. The dark blue hues of Sulyvahn's Great Sword of Judgment are deeper than the darkest moon, and are reflecting Sulyvahn's true nature, and so his true nature is of revenge, and now we will see on whom he is wreaking this revenge. During the fight, the Pontiff will grow darkish wings and summon a phantom of himself. This phantom has the same purple color as the humanity orbs from the Pontiff Knights. Like the Knights, he is separating himself from his humanity, from his dark side, and this darkness inside of a human is his wand. Every attack the Phantom performs will be repeated by the physical Pontiff moments later. He is literally acting as his wand wants him to. But only in the moonlit city you can finally separate yourself from your wand, as your desires are fulfilled. Sullivan's soul states, Pontiff Sullivan of Irithyll imprisoned a god of the old royalty in the abandoned cathedral to be fed to the devourer. This devourer is Aldrich, and the Pontiff allured him into Irithyll with the imprisonment of a god. Behind the Pontiff's cathedral, you are not far from this mentioned abandoned cathedral, and it is guarded by Deacons of the Deep, the followers of Aldrich, and, upon reaching the flying buttresses, by Silver Knights. These Silver Knight archers on those narrow flying buttresses are reminiscent of a situation in Anor Londo from Dark Souls 1, where you had to reach the top of one of those paths while being shot by 2 Silver Knight archers from above. Upon reaching the inside of this building, you are in a circular room that is not just influenced by previous games. For the first time in Dark Souls 3 you reach a completely unchanged location, the Dark Moon Tomb from Dark Souls 1. Behind the statue of Lord Gwyn, you could talk to the Dark Sun Gwyndolin, last remaining deity in old Anor Londo. You could also traverse the fog and challenge him, as he is guarding the hidden tomb of the great Lord Gwyn. Even this corridor and the coffin are in Dark Souls 3, and if you follow the quest of Yoel and Yuria of Londor, you will meet an assassin who brought Anri to the tomb and hands you over the Sword of Avowal. With this sword you can marry Anri through a special rite of wedlock.
Welcome, our gracious lord. Your spouse awaits you. You are very near. Please, take the Sword of Avowal. May you be the truest Lord of Londor yet.
This wedding is the reason why Anri always has the opposite gender, and it opens one of the 4 possible endings of the game. If you leave the Dark Moon Tomb, you will find a spiral staircase in both games. And in both games, this turning tower leads to the Grand Cathedral, now abandoned and covered in snow. At the highest point of Irithyll, hidden in deep fog, you are in front of the central cathedral in Anor Londo. The capital of the old gods of Lordran found its way into Dark Souls 3. As I said, the Sindarin word for the sun is Anor. The word Londo could derive from another invented language called Enochian. This language was recorded in the late 16th century in England by John Dee and Edward Kelly. Kelly functioned as a medium who was contacted by the Enochian angels, while Dee wrote everything down. They described Enochian as the language of angels used to communicate with God. In this language, Londo means kingdom, and so Anor Londo is the kingdom of the sun, or the kingdom of God, as Gwyn is known as the Lord of Sunlight. The beings who once wandered these holy grounds have left long ago, just like the sunlight left this city. The giant blacksmith who forged the lightning weapons of the gods is dead and is holding his coal in his hand. The cathedral lost its glory and is guarded by even more Deacons of the Deep. That god Sullivan imprisoned was kept behind the fog gate, and as there was only one remaining deity in Anor Londo, this god was the Dark Sun Gwyndolin. But Aldrich the Devourer of Gods arrived before you. After his resurrection, Jesus ascended to heaven, to the kingdom of God, and Aldrich, after his resurrection, ascended to Anor Londo, the capital of the old gods. Here he found the captured Gwyndolin, devoured the Dark Sun, and fused with him. Aldrich's upper part now looks like Gwyndolin. He is even wearing the crown, only his clothing is dark and not white. Aldrich is using variants of any single attack Gwyndolin performed against you in Dark Souls 1. He summons a great many of small magic orbs. While Gwyndolins were blue, Aldrich's are purple. The same goes for the giant single magic orb, being such as powerful. The arrow attack used by Aldrich is way more dangerous, as it equals a deadly shower of arrows, following you for several seconds. Aside from Gwyndolин's attacks, Aldrich is also wielding Priscilla's Lifehunt Scythe. The corresponding miracle states, Aldrich dreamt as he slowly devoured the god of the Dark Moon. In this dream he perceived the form of a young pale girl in hiding. It seems that he also devoured crossbreed Priscilla and obtained her scythe as well. Aldrich devoured humans and even gods. But what are his intentions? His soul states, when Aldrich ruminated on the fading of the fire, it inspired visions of a coming age of the deep sea. He knew the path would be arduous, but he had no fear, he would devour the gods himself. And his cinders of a lord state, Aldrich became a lord by devouring men, but was disillusioned with his throne, and so took to devouring gods instead. The throne of a lord was not enough for Aldrich, and devouring men was not enough as well. He wanted more. His appetite was so enormous that he lost even his human form. In the opening movie we can see Aldrich's body before he devoured Gwyndolin, but even after his transformation we can see his malformed body. Instead of an age of fire, Aldrich wants to go beyond fire to the age of the deep sea, the age of deep waters. And no matter what a great mystery this deep sea might be, it obviously must have one property. In the age of the deep sea there is no fire and therefore no life. Aldrich wants to devour every human and every god and then lead them into the deep sea of nothingness. But he is not the only one with this purpose. The name Aldrich is a combination of Ald, a former variant of old, and Rick, which means rich, powerful or ruler. Once there was such a being, an old and powerful ruler with such an appetite and the habit of devouring. The origin of this ruler lies in the distant past, and to understand this origin, we must go back to the first day. Demon's Souls, the first game of the series, takes place in the northern kingdom of Boletaria and is ruled by King Alend XII. The king unleashed an ancient and eternal power from its slumber, the Old One, and with it the colorless deep fog. Demons overran Boletaria and deprived the people of their souls. The more souls a demon absorbed, the more powerful it would be. And the most powerful demon was the Old One, as the lesser demons brought their souls to this creature. Just like Aldrich, King Alend was not pleased with his throne and developed an indomitable lust for power. Aldrich's body looks like sludge, as Hawkwood describes him. You can see bones sticking out of this living swamp, maybe remnants of his former human body. King Elend, by devouring souls, shared this fate and lost his human form as well. Below the Nexus, you encountered him inside of the Old One, and he looked just like Aldrich. Aldrich wants the Age of the Deep Sea, and King Elend wants the Old One to unleash the deep fog across the world, resulting in the extinction of humankind. Their motives are the same, as they want to go beyond the age of life.
Surely you have seen for yourself the pain and suffering that fills this world. But fight poison with poison. God is merciful, and so created the Old One. The Old One will feed upon our souls and put an end to our tragic realm of existence.
The Monumentals are the counterparts of the Old One and the Deep Fog, as they are preserving the fabric of reality. The last living Monumental guides you to the Nexus and presents you your duty. Together with the Maiden in Black, you shall open the Nexus and visit the Old One deep below it, so the Maiden can lull it back to slumber. To open the Nexus, you must visit the lands beyond the Archstones and slay all demons. You kill all of them and absorb their souls, and after killing all 5 archdemons, you can finally confront the Old One. The Old One is a being of pure nature. It has no face and no self, and represents a state of nothingness. The Talisman of Beasts states, "The symbol of God was nothing more than the image of the Old One." The Old One is a merciful God who, according to Elend, wanted to bring an end to your tragic realm of existence. The Maiden wanted to avoid this fate and needed you to gain access to this god. Inside of him you encountered the deformed King Elend and slayed even him. Now the Maiden could lull the Old One back to slumber, preventing the deep fog from further expansion, and you would become a monumental, preserving the fabric of reality. But there's just one problem left. King Elend is not the devourer of gods. He may have been a powerful being with an enormous lust for power. But there's another one with an even greater lust, or in other words appetite, and even the king must admit that.
How did you defeat my precious demon? No human has an appetite for souls such as you. The rest is up to the Old One. If it is to be, then you shall be beckoned.
The Old One grants access only to those of great power to receive their collected souls, and you not only absorb the souls of all demons, but with them also the souls of all the humans the demons absorbed. The Maiden wanted you to become so powerful to gain access to the Old One, but after killing Elend, you have a choice. You could leave the Old One and leave the Nexus, or you could surrender to your appetite for souls. You can kill the Maiden in Black and absorb the soul of the Old One, the soul of God, and spread the deep fog across Boletaria. The deformed King Elend showed us what such a powerful being would look like a drowned pig that softened into sludge. At the end of Demon Souls, you are the devourer of gods, and thus you are Aldrich. When you are fighting Aldrich, you are fighting your own self from demon souls, risen from his grave. Even if Aldrich is able to devour the gods, he is nothing more than a means to an end for Pontiff Sulyvahn. And this end seems to imply the extinction of the gods. Sulyvahn wants to take revenge on the gods that created this world. The great sword of judgment in his left hand is representing this revenge. And to understand the cause of his true nature, it's time to take a look at his second sword. In his right hand he is wielding the profaned greatsword, and it states, "Long ago, when Sulyvahn was yet a young sorcerer, he discovered the profaned capital, and an unfading flame below a distant tundra of Irithyll, and a burning ambition took root within him.